The next game is Wallabies Pumas. It's in Suncorp in Australia.
Well, the Wallabies have a deceptively good record.
They do, yeah. They're very hard to beat,
but they win there.
Yeah, they win there, which is the point. They're coming off an absolutely shocking showing in South Africa. Really, like they picked a team that was a new team, very new look for an Australia team. Where you have the two boys, like we were talking about. Do you pick Karevi or Kurandrani? Who do you pick in the centres? Turns out both is the answer. But is it
no Beale
on the pitch at all? Literally head scratching kind of decisions. Yeah. The back three, I've never seen. I can't remember the last time I've seen an Aussie back three that's so just
wasteful.
Well, not even wasteful, but just not dynamic at all. Like even the likes of Reece Hodge did better than the other two, but he's not a dynamic player. He's not like the kind of winger I associate with an Australia team.
How are Australia going to win when they have such a deficit up front?
Yeah.
And how the answer is with ruthless attacking play. And that's why, like you were talking about Adam Ashley Cooper, they could do a lot worse. Get finishers in your wingers jerseys because you need them to finish tries. And that Haylett Petty drop, like that's just, you're not even in the game and then you get a break like that and come on,
I know.
Take it.
It's very un-Australian. Normally that is their modus operandi is to be kind of not in a game, be getting bullied for a little bit, but then go bang bang try, and then you're back in the game. It's a very Aussie look to a thing, but they just looked impotent in their multi-phase and in their turnover, and
I think they were a little shocked after the season that the Brumbies have had, and that they've been quietly confident that their pack has been building something. And to be as thoroughly outclassed and outmuscled up front as they were by admittedly one of the best packs out there, but it was also a big team.
But it was a big pack to be fair, and it was like to be fair to them now. I like your man's name. What's his name at 6? I hadn't seen him before. He ran in for a nearly try. Very big man at 6, kind of like a loose lock.
I'm not sure.
He actually did some good work. His name escapes me now. The one who I thought was the weak link, who we were saying was actually having a good season, but Rodda by the second half was really annoying me. Isaac Rodda. Like I thought. Not Coleman, fucking Rory Arnold thought he was up for the fight and was actually doing his part, getting stuck into what was a bruising Springbok pack. But I thought Rodda was soft in all the contexts, and the two props, both at scrum time and in the loose, were getting monstered in the contact.
It's just crazy. I know Scott Sia was injured and he's back this week, but it's just mental that however many years on, they still line out for a test match with straight faces and James Slipper and Kepu as their props. And it's like, this didn't work in 2013.
When they were bursting on the scene as youngsters, they were getting monstered by the most elite packs in the world.
And Beaston Tawira had a field day.
He looked awesome actually.
On Kepu, who's their guy, and he's just not the guy. And it's their pack is not elite at the moment, and they were thoroughly battered about the place. And they were. It still draws like a crazy alarm bell, and I said it last week, I'm going to keep saying it. Skelton and Fardy are just waiting up in the Northern Hemisphere, and they are an instant fix to exactly all of that problem. Just chuck them in there with Rory Arnold and Skelton with Fardy at 6. What a difference
and you're suddenly
Eben Etzebeth is charging into the contact and Will Skelton hits him full on. That goes backwards.
You might spill the ball.
Skelton is one of the most physical players in rugby right now. He's playing for a champion side. Vardy's playing for a champion side, and they're not going to go to the World Cup because I don't know.
Some kind of old rule that is really feeling silly.
Completely arbitrary rule.
Well, it's not entirely arbitrary, and I know New Zealand do the same, but New Zealand are producing players. That's the key to that. That rule only works and makes sense while you're producing players. And Australia are just scouring the earth trying to find any test level players, and there are 2 locks up north. The reality
is that they need for grassroots to work over there. They need a functioning Wallaby team, and this side isn't functioning.
No, it's hard to watch. Last week was hard to watch from an Aussie. It was great. I was loving the Springbok performance, but the Wallaby performance was worrying. I've not seen them be that bad, even in the last few years. And it was only when Beale came on he showed exactly what they need to be about in that try that he scored, that wonderful
try that with just the flick pass. And it's just like, there's a Wallaby. You know, why do they hate? Like I keep reading comments from guys giving out about Beale. And I'm like, he is your best player. He is your first name on the team sheet. He is going to make things happen. He's going to make tries from nothing, and that is exactly what you need to win games. And Marika Corey-Betty as well, who I'm happy to see back on the wing. I actually thought, to be fair to him, Samu Karevi Like,
Did well.
It was ridiculous that he was put in the position of second five, partnered with Kurandrani. He's not a distributor. He wasn't going to be able to link up with the back three in any kind of real way. But every time he got the ball, he made things happen.
Yeah, he tried to. And he did shirk a few tackles and kind of got the hands free at one point. Like, he tried his best. I just thought the balance was so far from on. And then Nick White as well, who had a fine game.
Totally.
But he's also slow and kicking, and their pack's going backwards anyway. Yeah. And it's just like you're having a tactical scrum half who's not going to whip it out with any kind of pace or vigour, and your pack's going backwards at a rate of knots. Yeah. And it's just none of that makes sense.
It's a failure to understand how you're going to win games. You are not going to marshal your way around the Springbok pack, drive them forward, get a nice Brumbies maul try. Like there was a great moment early in the game when they got a maul going and it was well formed and it looked like one of those Brumbies mauls that was going to just trundle in as it inexplicably does in every Super Rugby game. And it's Test rugby and it didn't happen. The Springboks just pushed them back with all of their heft and weight, and a combination of world-class players shut it down. And then the Wallabies didn't score because, of course,
they had nothing out wide. Like that little back three was gibberish though. Like the naming of, like, none of them are dynamic barnstorming players, and they just had no link play, coupled with the two centres who didn't actually do anything wrong inherently, but it was just
I thought Kurandrani was too quiet. I thought Karevi was good.
Yeah, but he was one more out, and it was just like it wasn't getting that far. There was none of it functioned as a Wallaby attack should. Like they were very, very impotent throughout. Like even the try they ended up scoring, the first try, the Hela Petty one, which kept them kind of in the game, in with the sniff of the game. But they still just weren't in the game. To watch it, you were just thinking they did very well to just about get that try, and it wasn't slick.
No.
And then the Springboks were showing slickness and speed to take it.
I also think the more bad news in generally speaking, and we'll get onto it, was Taniela Tupou's just ridiculous yellow card offence, which we'll get into. I have issues with how that's been covered and Cheika's comments and everything else. We'll talk about that in a moment, but I just thought that was an example of some evidence of Kyle Sinclair in the man.
A little bit, he did go off. It was after the whistle, and he went off his feet direct with the shoulder to a grounded opponent. Like, it was all wrong. In everything, in every sense. And they were talking to the ref, going like, "Oh, it was after the play, so is that mitigating?" And I'm like, "No, it's not mitigating. It's
aggravating."
Worse. That's much worse. Like I didn't understand the response, but then you're right. You were saying the Wallabies kind of just the response to that incident, blaming it, which is something that Wallaby side and Wallaby media are always want to do when they lose games, is like throw shade at the ref, and they're not alone in that. There are a lot of other teams that do it, but this instance
there aren't too many teams that do it.
Not at the same rate as the
I think
Wallabies.
There's a problem in Australian rugby with how it's being covered and how it's being talked about, and I don't think they realise it, and it especially pertains to foul play.
It does. Well, like
they don't understand the new laws. They're not reading about them. They're not they don't know that a shoulder if your arm is behind your shoulder. World Rugby released an informative video on high tackles and shoulder charges and the sanctions around that, and they're very, very clear.
They are.
And the way that they differentiate between a shoulder charge and a high tackle is whether your arm is ahead of your shoulder
or not.
And it wasn't in Taniela Tupou's case. It was a reckless shoulder charge. It was, as you say, after the whistle to a downed opponent. And there was outrage from, among others, Phil Kearns, Michael Cheika, after the game
rugby.com/au or .au.
Yeah, rugby.com.au. All Australian media just talking about it was a ridiculous decision. Just talking about they have no idea what the law is. They have no interest in knowing. They're just sort of looking at it and going, it's a good hit.
It shouldn't be. That shouldn't be a yellow, but it is. It's arguably a red. And you're going either read the laws or stop commenting on it. But they always seem to find a way to take issue with a certain incident that way. But it's I remember watching a Super Rugby game, which it was a Waratahs game from earlier in the game. I can't recall who they were playing, but I think it was an Aussie derby. I think it was a derby game. So I was listening to the commentary for it, and there was one instance that stood out to me because Bernard Foley at one point went up for a high ball, and there was someone kind of pushed but went under him, while the defender went up for the high ball, and so he got his legs taken out from under him, flipped, and landed on his shoulder there and banged it, and it was like a hit while he was in the air, which in the Northern Hemisphere and in most other competitions would have had the refs and TMOs discussing, going, right, he's up, he's pushed in, is there a mitigating factor, he's come down on his head, blah, blah, blah. the coverage,
it's at least a yellow.
It's at least a yellow, maybe a red. Whereas the coverage and even the commentary going like that wasn't even drawing attention to the fact that Foley had landed on his head.
Just some vague stuff about how it wasn't intentional, which nobody says any tackle ever is, and that it should just be play on. And they're just not reading the laws, even though their job is talking about rugby and understanding rugby.
True.
But that's in the case of Michael Cheika as well.
Cheika is the more salient point because he needs to focus on trying to get this team winning games, and if he's going to repeatedly call foul when a ref just officiates and dictates the level
by the
of the
law
ball.
of the game. By the law of the game.
It's not good. We've seen it with like Jordan Murphy's Leicester Tigers and Jordan Murphy's response to ridiculous hits being like, it's not fair, I think the game's gone soft, it's a bit of a harsh call, and then a sequence of events that leads to them finishing bottom of the Premiership, conceding a load of penalties for similar things. It's a toxic way, and it's going to snowball on you if you don't address it. Because you're not actually looking at the problem, you're just making up a problem. Because what you're avoiding looking at then, by focusing on that, is the fact that your A team, such as it was, went out against a B team in South Africa and got whooped. And not only got whooped, like you were just nowhere near as good as them anywhere on the pitch.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Like, it's nothing to do with the hit. Although the card, yes, they got points during the sin binning time, but it's on you. Like
they're in danger of getting left behind by this sport. Like they're talking like, well, if rugby goes this way, it's just going to die. And it's like, yeah, it will in Australia apparently. But they need to develop a grassroots. They need their commentators to be more informed because it is having an impact. Like they need to develop a rudimentary understanding of the laws to start with, and they don't have that at the moment. And it's constant. Like I'm sorry if the argument is, well, the game's gone soft, but I don't think that flinging your body shoulder first into a guy on the ground after the whistle is something the game needs to preserve.
No, it's not. It's something that is cardable.
When I watched it, I was watching it here with our sister, and she was saying, that's a red. I was saying, it wasn't actually to the head. I think you'll find that they're going to make this a yellow. They could call it aggravating factors because he was on the ground and it was so open and punted it up to a red, but they'll probably just settle on a yellow. And that was the discussion, the informed discussion that we were having based on the laws. Meanwhile, the guys who were getting paid to talk about it were talking gibberish.
Yes.
Well, thankfully we were watching the Bok commentary.
Bok commentary I had as well.
We didn't have what was likely a tantrum.
An eruption of some kind.
On Fox Sports Australia. And I'm sorry to go in on them, but it's been a constant theme of Australian rugby exclusively for the last number of years, where they're just talking nonsense on foul play. Their team is getting progressively worse. Their stadiums are getting progressively emptier,
and they're still complaining about the ref.
And they just. I think the media plays a factor in this, and I think they do a worse job than everybody else. Yeah, no, it's fair. Rant over though, tirade over, but it needed to be said because it did come up again. It reared its ugly head, and it did colour the reaction to that game, which was a great game for the Boks and all this. And I'm not having it. I'm not having it. Like it's wrong. But that being said, we're going to pivot to Argentina as well, who last week were so close to beating the All Blacks first time ever, and it was like they so nearly deserved it. If Boffelli would have got in for another try, would have liked it. The only question, taking Boffelli off, like I suspect maybe he was injured because he's out this week. Yeah. But taking him up for Tukale came in, and I was all for that. I thought he looked great. I haven't seen him in forever. He looked beautiful again. He looked like the same silky man.
He is, but I'd like to see him and Boffelli on at the same time and see what can happen with those two. But it just didn't happen for them. They weren't quite clinical enough to get around what was a very resilient, stubborn All Black defence. And like even the nearly try in the corner, that was just a beautiful Bowden Barrett defensive play to snuff it out. There were very many moments of that where it could have gone, and it was only within 4 points, and Sanchez has probably ruined that
well,
pass
this is
ball,
the thing, is that I had said last week that a lot was going to hinge on Sanchez and his distribution game, and it didn't. He kicked a lot. And I'm curious to see how they want to play the game, because it was very un-Jaguares, and there was a lot to like about it, especially defensively. Yeah. Definitely. Against admittedly a bit of a stuttering All Black attack. Sure. But they shut them down. They weren't physically beaten by them in any way. No. And I think Pablo Matera is an insatiable tackler, and he's not just constantly making tackles, he's constantly making dominant tackles. Yeah. And he's a real number 6 is number 6. Yeah. He's actually causing a lot of. And to be fair to
Lavanini gets stuck in tackle time as well. None of them are soft in that contact area, not like what the Wallabies were showing in that showing. They look up for that challenge. And depending on how travel goes or whatnot, we've seen the Jaguares go to Australia and tour there whooping ass, taking names.
Yeah.
You'd like to see something similar from Argentina.
Well, I'm just curious to see if they're going to attack a bit more, because they were kicking a lot last week, and they did end up getting a great Boffelli try from a kick. But outside of that, they weren't making a huge amount happen. Well, the pack was stepping up, but their backline
to be
weren't.
fair, the All Black defence, which was something we didn't actually say when talking about the All Blacks, but it's like Argentina did try that Jaguars thing of spin it, and then one of the centres tries and toe pokes it through.
Yeah.
Tried that a few times, but it's just impossible against the All Blacks because Bowden Barrett's in the backfield and he's too quick. He was just, even when they found grass, it was Bowden getting there first and with enough time to gather and clear.
The instinct of their scrum halves, rather than to stay around the ruck, is to cover that wide space. So that particular style of going wide and then kicking it,
the All Blacks have that wrapped up all day long, which they did. It was the bomb that ended up deceiving them. But I'd like that particular avenue towards success is something that it pays them dividends against so many other defences. But the All Black setup is such that, and with Bowden, that Bowden Barrett factor is just something else. Like his speed is just shuts things down. That things that should work don't work when he's there. So the Aussies do not have a Bowden Barrett. So some of those probing, attacking kicks could work. It's a different lineup this time. They've opted to move, was it Mojano into the centre?
No, they're moving Maroney into the centre, and then they have a Rolls Royce of a back three, which I think might be their full back three. No, Imhoff was playing last World Cup, so it's Mojano in place of Imhoff. It was like a little upgrade on Imhoff. I'd go so far as to say, and then Cordero on the right wing back. Beautiful player,
great player,
and Tukulé at fullback.
There's your Rolls Royce. Tukulé is a fine. He's their equivalent of Ben Smith, because he's been there for how long, and he's just a silky operator.
And he's probably not quite at Boffelli's level. It's a shame to see Boffelli out, but he's got all the silky moves.
That's why I'd like to see him and Boffelli combine. I think they both have a head on them, and I think Tukulé could put Boffelli into some serious holes.
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right.
Yeah, but we won't see that this week. But Cordero back in an Argentinian jersey, that's great to see.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to be behind that extra pack waiting all day long to see the ball. He's going to be flashed it quickly and go and run at that Aussie over there. He's surely soft. So
it's exciting. I'm optimistic that you're right, and that the Sanchez kicking was an object of just that game rather than any sort of tactical indication of how they're going to go about things generally. I would like to see more pace in their game than they showed last week. I would like to see it speedy. I'd like to see it wide. I'd like to see,
especially because the Aussies have gone for the same centre pairing again, which wasn't really the area in which was more telling in that game. But I still think there's a slight flaw with their pairing with those two centres, even though they're probably the two form centres. I think they're a bit too bludgeoning. And they're both a bit flat-footed on Z. So
with Beale at fullback, a lot of that's going to change
for sure.
It's like the box. The box can afford not to pick a distributor in the centre, to pick two big centres because they have Willy Leroux.
Yeah,
and Beale coming in there. I think Beale. I was saying
he'll improve them, no doubt.
I was saying I would have preferred him in the centre generally, but such was the mess that their back three was at. That became the priority that needed fixing. And I think with Corabetti and Beale, you might see that fixed. In at least some sense. It's a much stronger selection.
It looks a much better backline from Czech at least, because with Beale there as a fulcrum, it means it gives them that option and takes the pressure off Foley a little bit.
Foley's gone.
Leilefano's in there, but it takes pressure off him, which you need to, because he doesn't cope too well with too much. But Genia as well, a bit of speed to try and facilitate. Playing a bit of ball.
I think both sides need to play with speed. I think both sides need to test each other. And I'm curious to see what both defences look like. I think the Argentinian defence and the Argentinian pack is greatly improved. The Argentinian scrum is still a bit ropey, and actually Scotty Seal might fancy it if he's feeling great against Figallo, but that remains to be seen. I think both sides should play strong attacking rugby. I think I'm leaning towards Argentina, just because I think that their
home advantage rules,
I think their defense,
Suncorp record and all that.
I think their defense and their pack are just a little bit stronger than what the Wallabies have going on right now. That said, it is a much improved selection from the Wallabies. It's great to see Beale in there.
It's their first home game. Pressure's on. It's backs to the wall.
I've always been saying that if it's not going to be Quade Cooper, it should be Bernard Foley, because he's probably the best of what they have. But he was impotent last week. I mean, the box put a bit of rush on him, and he just left the game.
But he had no options, though. If he was there with Beale, suddenly he has an option.
I hear you, but unable to make anything happen because he's just not that physical presence. So they're throwing Leilofano in there, who at least has a bit of footwork to him.
True.
But I actually don't disapprove of the call. I think it's time to give someone else a shot because Bernard isn't setting the house on fire.
No, he's just coming up second every game. He's a fine player, but he's going up against Andre Pollard or someone. Or in the last week it was Yankees and Yankees were pulling the strings. It was not White and Foley. And similarly, he's normally lining up against Bowden Barrett or someone like that, or even Sanchez this week could be troublesome. But we'll see how Leilofano goes. I do want to see a bit more potency from the Wallabies out wide.
I think he will see it. I think Kurabetti
they'll just have more of a clue of what they're doing, because it was so clueless last week and slow that it was very un-Australian. Whereas this week I think they will be coming and trying to grab tries.
Beale gives them direction, Beale hunts for tries, Beale finds space, and Kurabetti is an actual finisher on the wing. He's a finisher's finisher, and it's great to see him in there because last week was a bit of a mess. Still no sign of Adam Ashley Cooper, who I think you would like to see.
I would like to see in there. I think it would balance them to have him at 13 more, like a pick one of Karevi and Kirk. Yeah,
you could put Reece Hodge at 13.
You could put Reece Hodge at 13, but I would actually, I don't know, I prefer Adam Ashley Cooper because I think he's a wily distributor. I think he's got a good, sensible passing game.
He finds tries.
Yeah, but he's more than that. He's more, and in his later years, he's kind of gone through a Bodish arc of kind of reinventing himself a little bit and coming back as a slightly different player. But I rate his nous, and I just think if it doesn't work this week, the centres will probably be why. Is my little thesis on it, because I think they're a bit clunky and direct, and considering Australia's where you got your 10 and 12 both being kind of 10s, the fact that that's so removed from that
it's 10 and 15,
which is more aligned with what the rest of the world is up to, but it's slightly
except for
different.
Ireland, they don't allow it.
No, 110 and 19, and that is all. But it'd be curious to see how it goes this week. I expect it to be a bit faster. I'm wondering to see who wins the physical battle, because obviously Suncorp will be loud. There'll be the other mitigating factors, things like travel. But I'm curious to see if Lavanini runs into Rory Arnold, who's going to win that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Mike, this is why I've been leaning towards Argentina. Is that fact? What I will say is that Australia do have a good record when their backs are to the wall, and their backs are to the wall, because if they lose this game, they're heading into a 2-match Bledisloe series off the back of 2 defeats.
Close to disaster. It's close to not winning a game this side of the World Cup and having to go and face Fiji. Be like,
I mean, it's exactly that. So I mean, I think this is a big game for them. I think Czechia understands that. I think they have made a better selection. And it's curious. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a mad yellow card that decides it.
It could be,
from Lavanini,
or from Sikopi Kepu or something, and then we'll have more Aussie tantrums from it.
Indeed.
Swinging arm to the face. Clothesline punch. A couple of punches when he's down.
Then a kick. Listen, I am sorry about that rant in the middle of it, but I just felt like it needed to be said.
It's come up a few times. It happens a few times in Super Rugby as well. You're right on it. It's only the Aussies really that zero in on it so much, where it's a game that they lost outright, and the only thing they seem compelled to talk about is the one incident that was foul play, and they're just crying.
It's just not doing the work to know the laws and then bitching about them, and it's actually like you're bitching because you don't understand, because you haven't read up on it.
Yeah, but more than the bitching, what annoys me is that I want the Aussies to improve and get better, and I really like Czech, and we're Leinster fans. We have a lot of time for Czech. I want him to get this right somehow, and the fact that you're drawing in on the ref when you're after going to South Africa facing a weakened South Africa team and getting outclassed across the park, whooped from minute 1 to the 80th, and the only thing you're focusing on now is that the ref done you in. And it's like, that's never going to solve the problem.
A decision that was made more or less after the game was over. It could easily have been a red card. But there you go.
We digress on it, but it's a point that should have been made. But anyway, for this week, I don't know. Prediction wise, I'm hoping for the Pumas to do it, but I can see the Wallabies kind of coming out of nowhere with a spoiling performance.
I definitely can see that too.
Me.
Or just finding tries. I'd like to see
what I want to see is a pacey game from both. I want to see both kind of stick to their attacking roots and try and get some plays off against each other, because that's what they're both in it for. Exactly. And it's like if they're to have success against other teams in the World Cup, it's going to be with their attack. So go with that in mind.
Totally, and that's sort of where my Argentina prediction came from, where I was just thinking if both sides play to their attacking potential, I see Argentina as more competently able to defend that than maybe Australia right now. But the factor of who's going to show up and who's going to be that bit more aggressive, and Australia do have more at stake. I know Argentina would be at 2 defeats as well, but it's just not quite the same. They put it up to the All Blacks at home. They have the Jaguares.
Their performance last week was nothing as shameful as what the Aussies were putting in. You know, like they were nearly there, and everyone was by the final whistle. It was disappointing, but it was a good showing.
Yeah.
Whereas the same can't be said for what Australia brought last week, and now it's their first home game of the season. They're gonna want to put a showing in. They're gonna be there for the hits, at least in the first half. It's whether, and then the other thing is travel again. It's always a thing that happens with Australia. Like the Argentinians are now traveling from Buenos Aires to Australia.
Yeah,
it's a week turnaround. Is the same physicality going to be there? Because it was a very bruising game, because neither of them were that impotent. They were hitting each other a lot against the All Blacks. So
the Wallabies have had to go across the Indian Ocean
themselves. True. I know. Yeah, it's a huge factor in the Rugby Championship and in Super Rugby. Yeah. That does affect certain
especially
performances.
this condensed tournament. Yeah. That's why the Box did what they did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Send some people over to avoid that, and it becomes a factor in your tactics.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what kind of Argentina we see. I'm hoping we see an all guns blazing, really up for it Argentina. And I'm kind of hoping, justice-wise, that they win it by 5 or 10. Because I think that would be the just thing to have happen, because I think they're progressing more than Australia are. Who are regressing a bit. Yeah. But I can kind of see it clicking for Australia and maybe them getting the 10-point win.
That'd be nice. You know, there's no personal bias against Australia. No. It's just sheer frustration at a lot of what's going on there. But absolutely, if they can put it together and play the attacking footy that we know that they're capable of.
And Curtly Beale's putting people into
Beale
space.
at the centre of it all, because he is their best.
I love watching that guy play.
Australian fans, he is your best player. Cherish him when Pocock's not around.
That's right, actually. Yeah. Pocock actually is even more important, because their pack gets bullied so often, and it's just nice to have a Pocock in there. We haven't
mentioned it. I've just been sort of par for coursing that the Argentinian pack is stronger. Michael Hooper could do a lot more.
Yeah,
he was absent last week.
He was at work. By Marcel, or not by Marcel, by
Peter Steff was opposite him, and there was Elstad, and then there was Francois Lowe.
It was Francois Lowe who was doing his job better than him.
Get stuck in.
He's due for a big one, but this is what could happen back in Suncorp. You know, Michael Hooper suddenly making play after play, and then suddenly Beale's hands are on the ball off turnover. It could be an exciting game. I hope it's a pacey one.
I hope it is.
I think it's probably going to be the faster of the two games in terms of tempo.
I would love to see it. To see it. I would be disappointed to see either side not play attacking footy.
Or if it's kick tennis or something, you know, what's going on?
Boys, this isn't prep for the World Cup. This is nonsense.
Yes.
So let's go.
Let's go. Is exactly the puck call. So I'm not going to call. I'm going to say probably Australia.
Right. Well, then in traditional theme of the podcast, I'm going to say Argentina.
Fair enough. And let's go. And I'm still rooting for Argentina, because they're just my adopted. I kind of want them to want them to win the Grand Slam at some point.
You went against Argentina, and I went against South Africa. No, I didn't. I went for South Africa.
You went for South Africa.
I can never go against South
No,
Africa.
You can't. Your heart bigger than the head on that one. But yeah, so we're going to look forward to that game. I'm suspecting that a bit of Aussie backlash. They're not dead yet, and they still have bolts to fire this side of the World Cup and in the World Cup.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I hope you're right. You're right. Thanks for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you want to subscribe, there should be a button up here. Don't forget to give us a like and share with your friends. And please leave comments down below. We love the conversation. Thanks.